Back to another edition of the MerseySportLive podcast. I know it's only been a few days since our previous podcast, but today, joining us in the studio is former Sky Sports Cricket Correspondent and current LJMU Lecturer, Tim Abraham, joins in the studio. Tim, thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me. Good to be here.
Just last week, actually, me and Tom were at Finch Farm for the Everton press conference before the Southampton match, and we heard somebody saying your name. I don't know who it was now, but he was asking somebody at Sky Sports about you. My question is, how pleasing is it for you to know that you're still well respected in the broadcasting industry?
Oh, that's really good to hear. It's amazing. I mean, now it's getting on for over 3 years since I was at Sky, and I still get clocked, or people still see me and they say, "Oh, we really like your stuff on Sky." And sometimes I say, "Well, actually, I've not been there for 3 years." But other times I think, "Oh, it's it's too complicated to explain." So I just say, "Oh, thanks very much." But yeah, that's good to hear. I think in a way what I did there kind of stuck out a bit for a lot of people because what Sky Sports News became, and it became sort of accessible to so many people. So that's more testament to Sky Sports and Sky Sports News, I think. But also because I went on to specialise in cricket, what I did really tended to stick out because amid a football-generated station, if you like, that was mainly football-led, suddenly, in the middle of the winter, I'd pop up in all these sort of far-flung places, sunburnt, shouting at this camera, but in some really amazing places to report. So I think in a way, my reports pretty much stood out. So I think a lot of people, sort of took notice of that really. But that's great to hear. And, still got a lot of friends at Sky and obviously still keep in touch with what they're doing.
I want to go right back to start with to how you got into reporting and how you got to Sky, because obviously it's a massive company and you have to work hard to get there. What was your journey and how did you become a Sky Sports reporter really?
Yeah, it was a steady progression. I mean, I think when I was doing my A-levels at school, I pretty much wanted to be a sports reporter. I knew at that time that's what I wanted to do. So I pursued a degree that would help me along the way. So there aren't so many sports journalism degrees. There weren't so many around then as there are now, and the opportunities that you guys have got. So I did a kind of a media studies degree, but within that I did that up in the northeast in Sunderland. And that was good because I could, in my dissertation and in a lot of my studies, I could specialise in what I wanted to do. And when I did my dissertation, I did it on the local TV station, Tyne Tees TV, and their local news programme. But basically, it was just an excuse to spend at least one day a week in their newsroom. And I've got some great contacts. And I used to just walk in and out of there as I liked, really. Got some good work experience there. But I did know on the degree, because it wasn't specialised enough, that I would need something else. So I did a postgraduate journalism diploma down at Cardiff University. Again, I did a lot of sports reporting in my spare time there, built up loads of work experience at Red Dragon Radio, which is the local independent station there. And as luck would have it, at the end of my year, it was quite an intensive year, they had a job going. Someone was leaving the newsroom. So they said to me, "Look, you know us, we know you, would you like to come and work for us?" So that was my foot in the door, which is great. So it was great for timing. And I worked in news and sport. So, I was doing news stories during the week. In the evenings, I'd go off and do sort of sports events and at weekends as well. But working in news gave me a really good grounding, for my writing and just covering stories. And but typical local radio, it was all hands-on. It was like, I would be producing, I would be driving the desk, I would be presenting the news programmes, presenting the bulletins. Often you'd fill in doing a bit of DJing on the graveyard shift. I mean, it was really good fun. But then I got a chance to specialise in sport, and a job came up at Two Counties Radio in Bournemouth. Well, you might not think that's a real hotbed of sport, but at that time, Harry Redknapp was the manager of AFC Bournemouth, and there was Hampshire cricket, and it was just as a sports editor, and that was my job. It was a good grounding for me, and dealing with Harry Redknapp at that time was great. I mean, he was such a great manager to deal with, so laid back and relaxed. And I'd go along, I'd do my weekly interviews with him, and I'd go into his office.
Yeah, I was about to mention, what was he like as he was somebody to interview?
Yeah, great. Well,
he's a character now. We've seen him in the jungle and so on. He looks like a character.
Yeah.
But what was he like to interview
good to
personally?
me. Yeah, he knew that I was still almost cutting my teeth and that, but he was so laid back. And at that time, actually, they had a really good FA Cup run, and they played Man United. So Man United came down, went off to interview Alex Ferguson, who, by the way, was really good as well. I went to their hotel, and I rang him and got put through to his room, and he took the call, and it was great. But Harry was going, "All right, Tim, come on, mate, come in for a cup of tea," and all that. And he was great. I mean, just sitting and having a cup of tea with him. So, and they had a good cup run and everything. So he was a really good manager to deal with. And obviously, I mean, when I was at Sky doing football, I mean, when he was the West Ham manager, I almost saw him again, if you like. So we knew each other pretty well. But it's interesting, I suppose, both of us. He was making his name as a manager, sort of down the leagues, if you like. And I was just almost making my way in the business.
So you used each other really then?
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good, very relaxed and that. So. Yeah, I mean, from there I went to work for Independent Radio News as a sports reporter again. That was up in London, but the Sky thing was there's a bit of a story behind that, because I was actually covering cricket for Independent Radio News, which served, as you probably know, all the local radio networks, with their main national sports news, and I was doing the Ashes in 1993. And I was at Trent Bridge in Nottingham, and I do all these reports for all the stations and everything. Got back to my hotel after a really long day, and this is the day almost before everyone had mobile phones. But I had this note was put under my door. Can you ring Lindy Henneberg? And I just thought, it must be a mistake. I don't know this person. I should say, previously I'd sent off a demo tape to Sky because I knew they were taking people on. And they wrote back saying, "Oh, thanks for your interest, but haven't got anything at the moment." So, do you know what? I thought, well, no big deal. I'm actually quite enjoying doing my radio stuff, so I wasn't that bothered. Anyway, these notes appeared under my door, and I thought, and I ignored them. I just thought this must be a mistake. Anyway, eventually, there was a bit of a rain delay in the cricket, so I thought I'd better ring this, find out what she wants. So she said, "Oh, I'm really glad you've rung back. We've been waiting for your call. I've been chasing you. My name's Lindy Henneberg. I'm the secretary of the head of football at Sky Sports. We want you to come down for an interview." So I went, "Oh my, I've been ignoring this. I hadn't even bothered with it. And it turns out they want to see me." So after the test match had finished, I dashed down to Sky and met this guy called Vic Wakeling, who became the head of Sky Sports, a very influential person in TV sport, who unfortunately he's passed away now. But I thought, my God, they're going to give me a real grilling and everything. So I really bumped up on everything. And all I did was, he sat me down and we just had a chat about sport. We had a chat about managers, how do you find Graham Souness, who was the Liverpool manager at the time. And we just talked about sport. And it wasn't a real grilling at all. So I kind of left, and that was it. I didn't hear anything. So I just thought, well, he didn't offer me the job. So I thought, oh, I probably haven't got it, So didn't hear anything, and after about 4 days, I rang this Lindy back. I said, "Oh, it's just Timmy. I hadn't heard anything. I suppose I haven't got the job." She said, No, of course you got it. Didn't he tell you?" I said, "Oh, no, he didn't." He went, "Oh, he's always like that. Yeah, we want you to start, for the start of the new season." So that was my job at Sky. So it's all very vague, really.
Was that TV then?
That was TV. So that's my move into TV.
Yeah, so how did you find the jump from radio to TV? Because obviously there's a big difference when you're not, like body language and stuff like that you get taught about. But obviously you're on radio and you're just talking on the radio, but then you had to go into TV and it was all live and stuff like that. What was it like, that jump?
It was, typical Sky, straight in at the deep end. I walked into that building and within half an hour, I was out doing a shoot. Darren Anderton and Paul Merson had been awarded the Joint Player of the Month award, and I was sent off to go and get the shots and do interviews with them. So literally, I met with I've never really worked with a cameraman before. I'd done bits and bobs at IRM because they work with ITN, so I'd done bits and bobs, not a lot really, but their approach was, get out there and do it, and it was quite a refreshing thing. But it's almost sink or swim time really, so you had to learn quickly, and I think I did. And of course, as you guys know, writing to television is completely different. Yeah, because it's all about nudging the viewer. We can see we can see that goal, we can see what they're doing. What else are you going to tell us? How are you going to sort of nudge those pictures? So, and to this day, I mean, the people I really think are the good reporters at Sky, yeah, they're good at doing pieces to camera. They ask good questions, but generally, the best TV reporters are actually the best writers who write to TV pictures best. But it was a jump, but it was, you had to adapt quickly, really, and you learn quickly. They're almost on the job, though, yeah.
And you were moving about early in your career. So you were at Sunderland, then I believe you went to Cardiff, and then you went down to Bournemouth, and then obviously London. What was that like, having to keep moving about? Is that something you enjoy, or do you prefer staying in one place for a number of years?
I suppose in a way, by the time it's something I got used to, but I just knew that's what I had to do. You're not gonna get you're not going to get your perfect job first time out, as it were. Yeah. Obviously I'm from the southeast, I'm from London and that, but I always thought I would end up there, and I thought, do you know what? It's actually quite good to get out in the regions as well.
Yeah, why not?
So, absolutely, and I loved it. I mean, when I joined IRN from Bournemouth, when I was in Bournemouth, I almost felt, do you know what? There's almost a little bit of unfinished business. I wasn't quite. Whilst it was a good move for me, I still thought. I still got stuff to do down here, but you don't obviously turn down that opportunity. But I didn't mind, and it's just something you get used to. I think generally in journalism, you do cut your teeth out in the regions, in inverted commas, as it were. Some people, that's where they grow up and they work there and they're very happy there. But I always thought I would end up, hopefully, working in national journalism and pretty much going back to London after cutting my teeth, sort of elsewhere.
Did you ever fancy a writing career? Was that never?
No, do you know, when I started in journalism, it was always broadcasting for me, radio and ultimately television. But there are two things to that. Once I've been at Sky for quite a long time, and I rub shoulders with, when you're touring all around the world, or as you guys already see, you're just rubbing shoulders with guys in the written press. You see how they work, and you're in the press box with them as well, despite the medium that you're working in. And it's whilst I was at Sky, I almost wish in a way that I'd done more writing. Because sometimes what I was doing was just very quick sort of newsy reports, and a 1:30 TV report was almost like the maximum you could do in a way. I mean, at 1:45 you're pushing it.
That's quite a while for TV though.
Yeah.
If you're stood talking for 1:30,
yeah,
you've got to make sure that you stay interesting for 1:30.
Definitely. You've got to get everything in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whereas I used to envy the guys who could almost do nice long pieces and nice long feature pieces. So ironically, I did almost quite a long way into my TV career. I wish I'd done a bit more sort of writing. Really.
I bet they were thinking, the writers were thinking, I wish I could do a bit more TV.
Definitely.
Because the best thing about our course is it's all multimedia.
Yeah.
So we do a bit of writing, then we do a bit of broadcast, and then you do this podcast like this, and then you go into TV next semester. So you learn all the skills, but it is a lot different jumping from one thing to another, if you know what I mean.
Definitely. And do you know what? I mean, you've actually hit the nail on the head. I mean, with the multimedia now, the disciplines of reporters have changed.
They do everything, yeah.
I mean, writers do almost have to have broadcast skills, because they might need to do a piece to camera if they get to a ground, the atmosphere is building at Anfield or whatever. They might need to just get a picture of the team news, that all sort of thing. It's all about multimedia now. So a lot of writers, go into broadcasting, or even if they're appearing on Sky, as guests or whatever, on something like the Sunday Supplement or the Verdict or whatever it is. There's a lot of scope for sort of newspaper writers to work in broadcasting as well. So it's right across the board.
Obviously, you always enjoyed sport. You knew you wanted to go into sport. Was the end goal always, I want to be the cricket correspondent, I want to do cricket, or is it just like any sport? Which one? Yeah,
it was any sport, and being interested in all sports, as I think you have to do, even in when you're out of your comfort zone. I mean, I suppose if I was out of my comfort zone in anything, it's probably racing. That's the world. Although I ended up covering the Grand National in radio a few times, but. Cricket was a love in that I played club cricket. I mean, I played cricket with my dad. I grew up watching it. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's a sport that kind of became more popular with, with the character. I mean, Ian Botham, sort of became a household name, if you like. So it became into people's consciousness much more. But no, I started off as a football. I mean, I did, the Premier League stuff for 6 years. But I was interested in all sport. I had a passion for football. But because I like cricket, I mean, the good thing about Sky was I used to, almost when there was almost an end of a football season and the start of a new one. I mean, these days,
That's perfect. Yeah.
I got loaned out to the cricket department because they knew I liked and knew my cricket.
That's how you stay in a job, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you could start with football, then go into cricket. But if you can do a sport in the winter and a sport in the summer, you're basically perfect for that role.
Yeah, that's right. And the good thing about doing the cricket stuff was it was less newsy stuff, and I could go off and do I used to work for it was like a magazine program called The Pavilion End. And it was more featurey stuff. So I go off and do shoots for 2 or 3 days, and I was able to. And then they gave me a couple of days to put the piece together, do a nice crafted piece. So I used to really enjoy doing that. And through doing that, they were looking to take on somebody, to follow England all the time, really. So they wanted a specialist role there. And again, almost a bit like that, going right back to that Red Dragon thing. We know you, you know us. Within that department, they said, look, is that something you want to specialise in? So I thought specialising would be really good because it'd be good for contacts and really get your teeth into a sport. So
you can get more in depth, can't you?
Definitely, yeah. And you build up a good relationship because as well with the players, because cricket was this real in it together kind of mentality really for both the press, the media, and the players, because you're travelling with them, you're staying in the same hotels, and so as a cricket reporter, and I know a lot of the cricket writers laugh about, well, almost remark about this, but we could be away. I mean, tours are shorter now, but we could be away for about 3 months, away from home, and pretty much working every day as well. There's not really any days off. You have to file every day. But when the football reporters go for a World Cup or what, and then they could be away for maybe 6 weeks, maybe and that almost everyone says, "Gosh, that's a long time to be away." But the cricket lot are saying, "Hang on a minute, we go away for 3 months, So, or people who go to cover the Olympic Games, they might be away for a month. By the time they get there, do preview stuff and all the, they could be there, for a month max. But cricket, you're away, a lot longer, although tours a lot more sort of short and condensed now, mainly because the players, they play so much cricket now. It's a real issue now, but they are more condensed.
I was going to ask you about that actually. I read something saying you spent 4 months of the year away from England. How difficult was that? Because obviously it can't be an easy thing to spend so much time away from where you're from.
No, it is hard. But you are obviously you miss family and friends, but they know what you do, and it kind of goes with the territory a bit, really.
You knew you were getting yourself in for, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as I say, tours got shorter and shorter, but it's just very intensive. But credit to Sky, it wasn't a bad way of working in a way, because you would be full on for that amount of time, and you kind of worked. You kind of were in this bubble anyway. You just got into the routine of literally working every day with your cameraman, whether it's previewing test matches, doing the test match stuff live on the day, then doing the follow-up. Because tours moved on very quickly, I mean, that was almost the diet of it. You do the preview, so that would be about 2 or 3 days building up to a test match, doing the press conferences, in the interviews. Then you're into the game itself. Then after the game was the follow-ups. Then you travel, and then it's the build-up to the next game. So it just moved on very quickly. But you do kind of work in this bubble. I think all the media kind of get into that, and I'm sure it's the same when you're covering World Cups or Olympic Games or any sort of long tournament. You're just in this mentality of just expecting to sort of churn out the stuff every day.
Is it repetitive then? So you do the same thing every single day?
Yeah, and the scope to go off and do some nice colour goes down in a way, because you're pretty much a one-man band.
Do you do the camera work as well, or do you have somebody?
No, that's somebody with you.
Right, so it's a bit easier then.
Yeah, exactly.
I always struggle setting these cameras up, never mind a massive Sky.
Well, great, you're getting trained on that, because
well, if you don't have a cameraman for the early part of your career, then I suppose them skills will come in handy.
Definitely. I mean, for example, if you think, even if you're working with a cameraman, but you want to get some other shots and cutaways, or say it's a big Everton press conference and you want to get that shot of them walking in or whatever, or say it was a new manager and you were actually, I mean, Cameron's all set up. He can't really move because he's at the back of the room.
And massive as well.
He's not going to have time to, because it needs to happen quickly. But if you're mobile journalism wise, or just with a smaller camera, I mean, say it was a new manager being appointed and you want to get a shot of him actually almost arriving at the ground, you could go down and get that and nip back up in that. So you're having those skills is
then
really
that's multimedia journalism.
It is. Yeah. And more TV reporters are going down that line. A very good friend, a colleague of mine, Joe Wilson at the BBC, who at the back end of my Sky career, he was, literally with equipment we got here, mobile-wise, just getting other shots, and getting more creative shots as well. So, they are almost really important skills to have.
And I can't say, you spent so long at Sky. I'm going to say that you spent so long at Sky. How hard was it when it came to an end? How hard was that to deal with?
In a way, it was a bit of a relief. Sky making a lot of cuts and things, and basically what happened was almost the 4 senior reporters were basically made redundant because they wanted to cut back on things. They were going to cut back on the cricket coverage. So I was kind of we talk about specialising in a way, because I was such a specialist.
It kind of was a downfall in the end.
It was almost more vulnerable. So, and they were just changing the way that they're going about things. So, but do you know what? It's a bit of an in-joke because I've been doing it for so long. And I kind of said to colleagues, this is going to be my last tour, right? Without really knowing what I would go on to do, whether I go on and maybe freelance or do, but I never really had a firm idea of what I wanted to do after Sky. I pretty much knew at Sky, actually, do you know what? This is it for me at Sky. I mean, there wasn't really anywhere else for me to go. I quite enjoyed, which is related to this job, I got quite involved in this thing called Sky Academy, where actually school kids really, they can come in, it's like a school trip, and they get taught how to use the studio. They've almost had their own little studios, and they made little TV news programs. I mean, that was really good. I volunteered to do that, but I quite enjoyed that kind of mentoring side of things. So, but in a way, it did come and it almost forced my hand, and it did come as a bit of a relief. And obviously, it was a shock and everything. I mean, I was literally in India previewing a test match where I got a call saying, "Look, we're going to pull you out of India. There's big things going on here. And look, come in next week and we'll let you know what's going on." And that had never happened to me before, so I was quite upset about it really. But anyway, went back, took a few days, went in, and it soon became clear that they were going to cut back on their staff. So I was almost like on gardening leave, so I had lots of time to think about
reflect.
What I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I was treated really well by Sky actually. I mean, I don't think it's something that they really wanted to do, but that happened. So, but it was a shock. But then again, it made me think. Do you know what? There is. I mean, a lot of my colleagues who are still there, they still say, "Look, there is life outside of Sky." Perhaps when I was working there,
you said you were in that bubble, so yeah, I suppose you never really thought about what was going to happen after.
Yeah.
You were just living in the moment, which I suppose is fair enough when you're in a job like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that you'd ever want to leave. No. Or you'd ever think about leaving when you were so, I don't know how to explain it, like happy where you were. If
Definitely.
You know what I mean.
No, you've summed it up really well. You are in this bubble, and if you think when I started, Sky wasn't really around when I was growing up. Wanting to be, a sports reporter. It's something that came on, became this amazing, massive institution that it is now, that does such good work. So for me to be working in sports television as a reporter, that was the dream. I'd often sit back and think, God, that's what I wanted to do, and I achieved it. So,
well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. When you look back at what you thought you were going to do, and you were maybe training, and you look at what you did achieve, you can look back and think, I did what I wanted and what I always wanted to do, which I suppose is an achievement in itself, really, because a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah, and I was lucky. I mean, go back to almost the story of me getting better. I was lucky, good timing. I mean, luck plays a massive part. Being in the in the right place at the right time. It plays a massive role. But yeah, it was. I mean, I remember as a kid, you get those cricket magazines, and at the back there's always the bit where you could go off on a holiday to follow the England team around, and it had these really nice pictures of the Caribbean and things. And I always thought as a kid, God, wouldn't it be amazing to go and watch England play like in the Caribbean or in Australia? And I think back to that, and that's what I got to do, and I was getting paid to do it. It was an amazing thing, really. I mean, the Caribbean, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. Haven't gone to all those places, and that was my job. It was amazing, really. Yeah.
You just mentioned going to all of those different places, and that must have been amazing. Was there any particular moment, maybe not in cricket, in other sports, football or whatever, where you just like that? I really enjoyed doing that. That was my favourite part. Is there anything?
I think it would be, like, I'd say almost from the more, I'll call it glamorous side, but say going to Australia to cover an Ashes, I just thought, it's somewhere where I always wanted to go. Yeah. But again, to come back to almost to be there, that was such an amazing thing to do. And it's such a great country as well to work in, and just, great way of life and everything, and nice hotels, just amazing places. But there were challenging times where I went to places that I thought I would never ever go, and that includes places like Pakistan. Not many people get to go to Pakistan, especially now because there are security fears and so on. And Pakistan actually don't play their home matches there anymore. They have to play in the UAE. So, and I went to. Something I often think about is on one day, England, when we were in Pakistan, in the north of Pakistan, they actually had this trip where they went up we visited the Khyber Pass, this amazing sort of military sort of foothold, if you like. It was so traditional. It's like going back into the days of the Raj, and there were British Army camps there that we visited, right in this amazing scenery, right on the Afghanistan border. And it was amazing TV. We got some amazing shots, the players walking around, and we did our interviews there with this backdrop of these mountains and things. And such almost a military sensitive place. And, within a few years, that's where bin Laden was holed up, and that's where he was in hiding. And you would never, ever get to go there, even now, as it were. But to think, God, I was almost there, and amid all this that we didn't know at the time. So to go to places that and seeing sights you'd never, ever see. I mean, a lot on the subcontinent is almost that luxury, and the hotels are just luxurious, and it's 5-star quality. But literally, you walk out of that, and the poverty on your doorstep that hits you, and you sort of get your head around that, really. So the subcontinent was an amazing place to go, and India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. That was it's just a manic part of the world. It's amazing to take in the sights and sounds of that.
You, with cricket correspondent in a great time for English cricket. Was it the 2005 Ashes when England won 5-0 and Andrew Flintoff was the captain? What was it, looking back at it now? What was your favourite part of being a Sky Sports cricket correspondent?
I think, coming back to good timing. I mean, I was into the job when England won the Ashes for here on home soil in 2005, and then they kicked on after that. The best bit, actually, and this is something I almost take heart from, is that I just enjoyed a really good relationship with the England team.
Did you ever interview Freddie Flintoff?
Yeah, I mean, these guys younger than me, but you still, because they play for England, and I guess it's the same when you do football interviews as well. You still put them on that pedestal because they're representing, they're at the top of their game.
Professional sportsmen.
Yeah, they're professional.
I think we all do that.
Yeah. We'd all love to be doing what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, if you can't do it, you talk about it, don't you?
Exactly. That's the thing. We're not good enough to do it, but we get the next best thing.
Yeah.
But you still put them on that pedestal. So if I interviewed, whether it was Freddie Flintoff, it was Andrew Strauss, if it was Michael Vaughan, Nasser Hussain, these are guys you still look up to, and it's almost a privilege talking to them about what they do. So every interview I ever did with all the England captains, with the coaches, whatever, even backroom staff, people who are involved in professional sport. It's a real privilege because you've got that passion for sport and you're talking to people who've got that passion as well. So I used to just like talking sport with people. That was a great job to have. I found it because, and hopefully people who like sport and like you guys, because you've got that passion and interest. It's not that hard actually. You're talking about and putting it into context. You're talking about sport. Putting it into context. So it doesn't really matter. It's still a game, but it was fun and just finding out and getting insights from people and. Talking to top players, I used to think was a real privilege, and watching players come through was pretty good as well. Looking back at the top players that you did interview, who would you say was your favourite interviewee? Well, going right back near the start of things, I'd have to say, it was pretty much the England captains who shone, and so I like talking to them because each had their own challenges in a way. But I've got to say, and I got to work with him a lot because he went into the Sky commentary box. But I was around when Nasser Hussain was a player. I was about to say Nasser Hussain. Yeah. So he was a player, got into the England team, became the captain, and what I liked about Nasser was his honesty because when he was a great person to interview because if England were, he came in where England weren't such a good team, and he gets credited almost for laying the bedrock for England becoming the success that they became. But he would come out with things like, they'd had a bad day, and you do an after-day interview with him, and he'd say, we were abysmal out there today. And you're thinking, this is great stuff. Yeah. You don't often get, such honesty, almost criticising the team. We were terrible. And he would list and he'd go through what was so bad. And then, but you were waiting for it. Then came the but. And then he swung it round and backed his players and talked about them positively. Well, that's exactly what you want, though. Yeah. You want a bit of honesty, bad, but then you want him to say what they did well. Yeah. But you definitely need that honesty because without that, then he's just saying what everybody wants him to say or thinks. Yeah. People would write around it, but he said he knew the media really well, and he spoke really well, and he said, "Look, we're going to get absolutely hammered in the press. There's no good hiding. There's no good pussyfooting around it." And he was just really honest, and it was good stuff. But then came the but, and then he just came round to back. I'm going to back my players to get us out of this. We got the team. I've got the ability, to drag us out of this. So it all ended on a positive thing. So, but he used to, when he became a Sky commentator. I enjoyed a good relationship because having been interviewed as England captain, suddenly he's a Sky commentator now as well. So, and he'd take obviously get this thing here. I've got this very loud voice. The England players used to take the mickey out of my loud voice because when I was doing pieces to camera things, you could hear me, for miles, and they'd shout out, Tim. My thing was Tim Abraham, Sky Sports, wherever, and they'd almost, shout that out to me. But I think Andy Wilson said something about that. Yeah. We went over to Super League. I think he said, I can't remember what he said. Everybody did. Over a year ago. But I remember him saying something and joking with you about that. Yeah. But what I had to do a lot with Nasser when, as the Sky Sports News reporter, we'd often interview the commentators, get their take on the game, or if there's a story, you get the commentator's point of view. What's their take on it? There they are, ready-made former England captains. Almost why they get signed up, because they give a good perspective on things and they've got the experience. So there was the big thing about the Kevin Peterson story, falling out with the dressing room, didn't get on with his teammates, but he's still England's best player, and it was a big cricket story, and Nasser was talking about how, look, you're not going to get on with everyone in your dressing room, but you still bury the hatchet and get on for the cause of the team. He said that's what it's like. Not everyone's going to get on. So I was doing this live interview with Nasser about this into Sky Sports News. Nasser, what do you think? Is he being managed properly and all this? And he came out and said this. This is live on TV. He said, Look, Tim, not everyone gets on. I had to manage players. Players have got different characters, but you get on with the job. For example, I'm here talking to you. I don't like you, but I still do an interview there. And this is going out, that's what you said. So
your face was dropped.
I'm obviously not in shot at the time, but I'm looking at him and saying like this. So, but then you turn it around. So I turned it into. So then basically the camera came back round to me, and I'm with her. So you
got a sad face.
Yeah. And I knew he was joking. I know you could hear me laughing, But. So I said, well, there we go, NASA, thanks very much indeed. We'll be catching up later. I do hope you do, talk to me. Or something like that, We're still going to be best mates.
Just brush it off, yeah.
But, but it's still moments like that you kind of remember. What I really, I'm babbling on so many memories, but I enjoyed, and I enjoyed almost with the cricket, forcing the Sky hand, because when Sky Sports News became bigger and bigger, we'd take press conferences live. It wasn't just a case of going back with the thing. We had the technology if there's a press conference on, you probably see now, the football managers' press conferences on a Thursday or Friday, they're live. So, and it meant that I basically almost, not so much stage manage it, but I made sure that we got in there first. So it was important for us that we were seen to be starting the press conference, and it was me asking the questions live.
That's why when I go to Everton ones, I think it's Vinny O'Connor or people like that, Fraser Dainton, they sit at the front and they ask 5 or 6 questions.
Exactly.
But nobody else really asks any questions, so it's pretty much just him asking the questions to Marco Silva.
Yeah.
And then obviously it goes out live on Sky.
Yeah.
Were you doing that? Were you part
exactly
of that?
But I made sure, that's where you almost do the jockeying behind the scenes, and you're saying to the press officer, look, we're taking this live. Can I get the first 4 or 5 questions, and then it's open. And we got into the routine of doing that. Sometimes the Beeb would take it live if it was a big story, but generally we were the only ones taking it live. So it was important that we led the way, and we pretty much did that. So, and it was great when the press officer would come in and say, right, we're going to take Tim first, and it just elevated us a bit, really, and we got into the routine. Sometimes I would actually almost introduce it live in vision. So it's like me, and I mean they're almost broadcasting. You're broadcasting to I don't know how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. But when you're in a small room with your colleagues there, and almost it's down to you to say, yes, thanks very much indeed. Welcome to Lords. We're about to. In fact, Alistair Cook is walking into the room now, and you're almost commentating on him walking in, taking his seat, and talking, and then leading up to the first question, and it gets the old adrenaline going. So we kind of did that quite a lot as well. So
but that was nerve-wracking. That
was
it more nerve-wracking doing it in front of your peers?
That's what I was going to say.
Rather than doing it, because obviously you can't see the people behind the camera.
But
you can actually tell when people are staring at you.
Definitely.
Does that ever get a bit nerve-wracking?
Yeah, definitely. In the smaller room, it's like, to be honest with you, it's like when I first started teaching, talking to a room full of students in a lecture theatre or that. Just a very different discipline to just looking at a camera.
Do it via Skype.
Yeah. But when I did pieces to camera and things, it's a very false thing, but it's, you just looking at a camera. I mean, there's a camera person behind.
Yeah.
If it's a big kind of thing, you might have a sound guy, but there might be a little team around you. But talking to a room full of, or knowing almost, you're with all the colleagues, and you know them really well, the players know you really well, and it's like, is he going to slip up here, or is he going to muck this up, because it's live. That was what I was worried about, almost mucking up in front of them, really,
Sticking with cricket, obviously England won the World Cup in the summer. What was that like for you as a fan, now that you weren't working and you wouldn't have been interviewing everyone, and you're seeing that from a different perspective now as a fan? What was that like? Yeah,
it's a really good question, because do you know what? It's the first time, in a way, that I really kind of missed it. When I started here, and I actually quite enjoyed just taking that almost step back and enjoying cricket more as a fan, or just enjoying sporting, not thinking, what have I got to ask them at the end of the game? I didn't have that, it was almost, I could just enjoy it like everybody else. Without that, kind of almost work pressure, if you like. But so I hadn't really missed it, and I enjoyed just having almost that more distant view. Although I took some of your colleagues down to Lords for the India, and that was a great thing, because that was a great day for us all, because we were, your friends, they were proper accredited journalists, for those 2 days there. and that was great, and it just kept me in. But I was still there. I was taking it all in, but I wasn't sort of like filing or meeting deadlines. So that I enjoyed that. But the World Cup was the first time I really felt, God, it would have been really good to have been working on that.
Yeah.
And especially the way that England won it. I mean, I covered when they won the World 2020 in the Caribbean, but obviously this was massive on home soil and everything, and the Super Over. So that was the first time I thought, God, that would have been amazing to cover. So in a way, answering that question, it was the first time I kind of thought I should be involved, and I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Were you expecting the phone call?
No, no. I mean, as you know, I still do a lot of kind of more, stuff for Radio City and Radio Merseyside. So I was on a fair bit on that, but no,
You get like a note slipped under your door.
Yeah, can you get down to Lord's quick and ignore it? Yeah. No, not at all. No, things have moved on, but I think it's important that we do stay in the loop, and that and it's good that I keep up my contacts and still do stuff for the benefit of. So I'm passing on to you guys. Yeah. This is what the latest is, because as you know, things just move on so quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
Sky cover things differently now from when I did it. It's much more. I mean, what I do notice now. I mean, aside from, and you get trained to do it, and it's quite right you do. But a nice package report. These days, it's more about it's just about live television, and that's what Sky's about, and it's almost author touch screen stuff.
They have more guests on as well, don't they now?
Exactly.
Rather than just one person talking to a camera, you normally have a presenter and then say, "I'm joined by two people, so and so now. What do you make of this?" And then it's more longer. It's a much longer piece.
Definitely.
Rather than when you were doing it, you just stood there talking to a camera for 1 minute 30, 1 minute 45. So I think that the broadcasting has changed quite a lot.
Definitely. Yeah.
Rather than written hasn't.
Since my time, you've actually said it, and in a way, that's the way that Sky were going to do things. It's more so if a big story breaks now. Obviously, they got skilled, trained reporters, but it's almost more about reaction. So if a big cricket story did break, it's about we'll get Nasser Hussain on, we'll get Bob Willis on, we'll get Bob Willis into the studio. So it's more about getting the views of the pundits reacting to a story rather than doing almost an overall crafted piece summing the story up, because it's 24-hour sports news. It just rolls on and it changes very quickly, hour by hour.
Where would you rank this summer's cricket in all the time that you've been doing journalism? Where would this summer's cricket rank in the past 25 years or so?
It's right up there. I mean, it would be for me, this summer. I mean, obviously World Cup a win, because that was a brief, and that was almost what Trevor Bayliss was brought in to do. I still feel I was quite disappointed by the Ashes, and I think we not so much got found out, but Australia were the better team, and it was disappointing we couldn't sort of match the World Cup win with an Ashes victory as well. But I still rated the Australians as favourites even over here. The series was drawn and the Ashes were retained by Australia. But the World Cup win, given the drama, and the fact it was a really good tournament. But for me, 2005 almost still in many ways outranks that, because they hadn't won the Ashes for so long, 27 whatever it was years, and there was the big bus parade, and that was a real privilege as well, because I was the only TV reporter on the team bus, for the big parade, because everything got pulled, you see. So they couldn't have 6 crews on the bus there. So I was the team. We had Jonathan Agnew, who did the radio stuff, and I did the TV stuff. So all the TV stuff, it was pulled so that it was used by, obviously Sky, BBC, ITN. So all my reports were all being used by that, really, all the interviews we did. But I was right up there on the front, talking to Michael Vaughan and these hundreds of thousands of people, kind of all around us. And then I found out, because I was doing stuff live on the bus, but our stuff, as we were making our way to Trafalgar Square, was being relayed on these big massive screens. So, which again, coming back to, if I'd have known that, I'd probably been a bit nervous about doing the interviews. But I had no idea until I got there, So, but 2005 is because it was almost the start of better times, if you like. That for me really ranks as an amazing summer, really. Yeah.
And last bit on cricket now. Ben Stokes had the summer of his life. Do you think that maybe Sports Personality of the Year?
Yeah, I really do. Especially, I mean, obviously the rugby team, had they, gone on to win the World Cup, they'd have been right up there for, almost, well, certainly Team of the Year, but characters within that. So, yeah, I think so. It's funny with that award. I think you can almost nail it on as soon as it happens. I mean, going right back, when someone's done something so
everywhere,
special.
Wasn't it? Literally, it was. Everybody was talking about it.
Yeah. That's the thing, and that's where, as you guys know, that's where it was a lead news story. England winning the World Cup and Ben Stokes, and he became this household name. So, and it turned people onto cricket. So the impact that it had, but just the way that he went about things. Well, not just the World Cup thing, but that century at Headingley to win that Test match, to follow that up, the World Cup up with that. Again, just reinforced him as a household name. So I really think as the actual personality, I think he's got a great chance. Yeah.
Where were you when the Super Over happened?
I was in Bolton, so I wasn't watching it, but I was listening I was actually supporting some colleagues who were doing the Ironman in Bolton. It was the Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it was.
So I was in Bolton, and I was supporting them almost at the back end of doing this Ironman triathlon, and I was listening to it. So I was just letting everyone, my God, it's gone down to a Super Over, and I was kind of like, I was almost back into reporting mode, But I was listening.
What's happened to?
Yeah, I was listening. So I wasn't watching it, but I was listening to Test Match Special and relaying it. So yeah, I'll never forget where I was, because I was at this sporting event, but almost completely distracted by this.
Who would have thought that? Who would have thought? Yeah. Moving on now into your lecturing career, you started 2 years ago.
Yeah, just over 2 years. Yeah.
How are you finding it, first of all?
Yeah, great. It's when I got this role, actually a lot of people in sport were actually really interested in what I was doing, and I think quite envious. And we're talking about almost being in this bubble, and you work at Sky or somewhere for so long. And I think a lot of people quite fancy doing what I'm doing, actually. I think reporters have come up to me and said, to a person, everybody's saying, let me know if there's anything I can do. I'd like to get involved in doing that. So I think they think that it's a really good way of sort of moving on, and it is. So to be able to pass on all that you learned and your experiences to people who want to do what I did is immensely satisfying, and it's challenging as well. I'm often out of my comfort zone, but that's a good thing, because you get the time to research and bump up on stuff, and then you deliver the lecture, and that's good to do. You get the time to do that, but to be able to to be doing this now is a big. I think it's really important, and I really enjoy doing it. So
it's a pleasure.
No, it's massive, because I kind of think hopefully you're trying to make a bit of a difference. And I wasn't doing that at Sky in my journalistic career. I mean, it's quite you're working for a big company or whatever.
You're working for someone.
and it's for them. But and you are very, I'd like to think that I was, professional throughout my career, and I was. But I'm taking that on in a different direction. And if I can help one person, or even if it's assignment, if it's doing something like this that helps out, that's a really good thing to do. And I get a lot of job satisfaction out of doing that.
How did the interview process go? Because I know you said you were in Sky Academy and you wanted to go into something like this. What did you have to do for your interview?
Well, it's interesting. I like to think I nailed it, because what happened was,
I must have done now.
Yeah. I got an email. I applied for I didn't know whether it was a chance to maybe do some guest lecturing and that sort of thing. It was obviously a full-time role, but I just thought, great to get an interview, because hopefully at least I could, put my foot in the door, and it could lead to some opportunities. So I came. Do you know what? It's funny how everything went well right from the moment, or everything kind of fell into place. It was almost like it was meant to be. Yeah. Because right from the time where I came up on the train And I came up the day before because I wanted to have a look around. I knew Liverpool, but literally from covering football and then almost going straight, I didn't really know the city that well. I've got friends here, but I didn't. So I wanted to spend the day before just wandering around, finding out where we are here, so I would turn up on time.
Yeah.
But so I booked myself into a hotel. And whilst I knew it was in the city centre, but it was actually the Liner Hotel, which is right by the station. Yeah. So I just thought, wow, that is so convenient. It's like 2 minutes away, and I'm at my hotel. And then I got into my room. I could see the Redmonds building where I was going to be. I just thought, God, this is just amazing. Everything is on the doorstep. This is a good omen sort of thing. And then out of the blue, I was contacted by a friend I went to university with who lives. He's from Wirral, but he, lives, works in Liverpool. And out of the blue, he just gave me a call to catch up. And I said, Rich, it's unbelievable. You never guess where I am. I'm in Liverpool. I've got an interview for this job in the morning, and it was just like it's almost like another little sign. So I went to the interview, and basically my brief was they wanted me to make a presentation on how I would improve or what I would offer the students on the journalism course. So, but I wasn't allowed to use any visuals or anything. I think they wanted to see how I would perform in front of. There's a panel of about 5 people, including the head of journalism. It was like head of the faculty, the dean of the university, and they had an outside person. Luckily, because you have this neutral person who basically is nothing to do with journalism but can give a bit of an outside perspective, who worked for sports science, so he had that sports kind of relationship anyway. So what I decided to do, I decided to pick up on a bit of a journalistic theme. So I had the 2 words fake news, which became a bit of a buzzword. Yeah. So for every letter of fake news, I came up with a heading as to how I would improve journalism at Liverpool John Moores. So it was F. F stands for, I can't remember what it was, but A is for application, and then K is for knowledge, E is for all of it, and I went right through the heading. I stood up and I kind of walked the room a bit, but I just asked them a questions. I mean, here we are, we're all kind of journalists here. What do we understand by fake news? And Jackie Newton, the head of, almost gave an answer. I said, yeah. And then I said, right, well, let's run through. And I said F stat, and I applied it to almost student journalism. And then I got down to S for news. And I'd had a little look at the building. And I said, and finally we got to S. And S stands for Starbucks and all the coffee that I'm going to buy there. And I went, no, not really. So I made a bit of a joke, Yeah. And so it kind of went well. And I kind of learnt it. It was like a script. So I learned what fake, and I kept it to a little bit of a journalism theme. So I did that. And then they said, right, thanks very much. And I asked my questions. When would I expect to know? And they said, well, look, we've got more people to see. It might be a week or 10 days. So I said, fine, thanks very much. So, and then talking about things falling into place, went back to the station, and I'd heard that morning loads of trains had been cancelled because there'd been some weather problems. But I went to say I was just going to wait around to see and I walked in, and suddenly the trains are back running on time. I just walked straight onto the train, so I thought, this is just, everything is kind of going really well. But because trains have been cancelled, I was in this carriage. It's jammed because loads of people jumped on the same train. But I was on my way home, and then the phone goes in my pocket, and I managed to get it out. And I looked down. It was an 0151 number, and I thought, it's a Liverpool number. Yeah. So I thought, it's probably I've probably left something at the hotel, or that they're probably saying, we found something in your room. Where do we? And so I answered it, and it was Liverpool John Moores saying, thanks very much indeed for coming to the interview. And I thought, no, if they're ringing me this quick, it's because thanks for coming, but we've got other, because they said it'd be week or 10 days, and they said we've seen enough. We'd like to offer you the job. So I was in this. So this was literally within an hour of me doing the interview. Bad, is it? Yeah. So I just wanted almost to. I couldn't punch the air because all these people were around. I didn't know what to. But then it's like, wow, I've got the job, and not so much. I mean, obviously, it wasn't so much a decision to make, but I knew then everything was going to change from then. So
it's a good job you answered the phone as well.
Absolutely.
If you didn't recognise the number, you might have
could have been another Lindy Henneberg.
The first time
I'm
in
not
Sky.
answering that.
You might have missed out on 2 jobs there.
Yeah.
We mentioned earlier about you moving around, and you finally came up to Liverpool. What was that like, and why did you choose to come to Liverpool? Because it's quite far away from London.
Yeah.
How can you choose Liverpool as a city that you wanted to settle down into?
Yeah, I've had a really good feel for the place, so I knew.
It's quite compact.
Yeah,
like
that's
you
what
live
I
in
love
London
about it. You know, I live in the city centre, and I don't. Do you know what? I don't even have my. I will have it here, but I don't really have my car.
Well, you don't need to,
here.
really.
Don't need it. So I just walk everywhere. Everything is nice and it's on the doorstep. It's compact. It's a great city. It's a great city, and I'm learning. Do you know? But I'm learning more and more about it every day. You know. So, but I love just being able to walk around. That work-life balance of me. I could have been stuck on the M25 trying to get back with the story. You know, and we're up against it. Here I walk. It is. You know, I read the papers on the way in. It is a great sort of work-life balance, and I love that. I love everything just being on my doorstep. So it's a really good city. I mean, but there's no doubt it was a big move. You know, it's a long way. It's kind of leaving my friends and family.
Well, you're leaving your comfort zone once again.
Exactly.
But I suppose as a journalist, you need to learn how to do. So
it's almost going back to
it helps you out.
Yeah. So I think in a way, because what I've gone through before, and it used to being away from home or being in strange places, if you like, I think in a way it stands you in good stead.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know what? I'm 2 hours, train ride away. You know, given what I've gone through, or a lot of what people have to go through. You know, if you think there are people in the forces who would be in Afghanistan or who get posted away, people on oil rigs, for example. So if you think of the way that people have to work, and I've kind of worked like that in the past, but I was in a position to do it, so
why not?
Why not?
And it's obviously take the gamble, and it's worked. So.
Yeah, but I'm still quite pleased, even at my age, if you like, that I'm still able to do that, or start somewhere new. But it's quite exciting, to be honest, as well.
Because you have so much experience across your career, and now you're almost passing it on. What would you say is the biggest thing you could advise people like Will and I? And I have all the other students. What would your main advice be from what you've learned?
I think, and I've been able to think about this a lot, and just the more and more I work with students and the more and more modules I do, for me, being a good writer or liking writing is so important. And I think, as I said earlier, the best broadcasters are still actually the best writers, and that comes back to that point about I wish I'd done more writing or newspaper, and you can you get the chance to do that. So by working across all mediums and on being multimedia skilled as you guys are, I think is so important. But I just think everything it all comes back to the writing. Whether it's for online editions for your websites. If you're just writing little shorts for social media, being a good writer and capturing that moment, I think is so important, and that's what's really driven that home to me. So I think it's great to be able to say that to people, because they might not want to be broadcasters. They might just want to become writers, which is absolutely fine. But it's saying, look, it's still good to have those skills, but working on the writing, I think, is really important. So whilst I was a broadcaster, a lot of what I did was about almost having a presence in front of a camera. I would still, my writing could always improve. You never, cliche to say, you never stop learning. But the guys that I looked up to as reporters that I do now, the guys at Sky and at BBC Sport, whatever, I would look around a press conference room and I'd pick out the best reporters, and they were the guys that I'd like to read as well. So that if I could pass on anything, it would be that really. And also it's quite nice to see related to that tried and tested skills, like the best. You look around a press conference room and there's still guys now taking shorthand.
That's a skill.
That's a skill, and I did it, and I couldn't do 100 words a minute now because it's something you need to keep up. But even in this day where you could just put your iPhone on the press conference table, or you could on your dictaphone, you'd record what they say.
Yeah.
They do that, but they're still in the press conference doing shorthand, and you look at them again and say, actually, they're the best reporters.
Get it up faster as well.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that you record it, but then it takes a while to transcribe it all, and then you have to put it into a story, and it's not as easy as it looks.
No, it's not.
You find that out the hard way as well.
Yeah. But I just thought, actually, there's a little lesson there that even in these days where, not to say it's easier, but there are more opportunities for you to get press conferences and get material. But to see people there still doing shorthand, where not everybody, they're almost in a minority once they get into the hurly-burly of the working world. But to see the guys still keeping it up, and you look and say, oh, actually, there's a really good writer, Mike Walters at the Daily Mirror, really good. I mean, he's such a good writer, but he always does shorthand, and I think there's almost a little lesson in that despite this digital age, tried and tested methods still stand the test of time. Yeah.
Well, a couple more questions before we wrap it up. We see Tim Abraham, the LJMU lecturer. Will we ever see Tim Abraham, the Sky Sports correspondent, ever again?
Oh, I don't know. You never say never.
If the opportunity came up, would you accept?
I'd love to do it. And I still. I mean, talk about unfinished business and that. I mean, to this day, I don't think you ever kind of lose that. I think I could just stand in front of a camera and do a report now, or I could go off and cut a TV package.
Like riding a bike.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and software and things change. I mean, I did go down to Sky. I just wanted to see, after a couple of years, or it was about 18 months, I just wanted to go back to Sky Sports News and just see how it all was, since, and I went down and spent the day there, which was really good to do, and touch base with colleagues and things. But I do think things, though, move on. In a way, though, I think there is an aspect of, you've had your time, and this is a very busy full-time role in itself. But from the point of view, whilst it might not be, doing a reporting for Sky, certainly keeping in touch with Sky,
it's important.
And getting along to BBC Sport, and just finding out and getting the big. You never lose the almost the competitiveness of what journalism is.
Yeah.
I mean, I see on other courses sometimes we get our guest speakers in, and I'm always striving to get people in, Sky colleagues who could be useful, to students, and that remains a big challenge. And if I see that another course or another university's had a go, I go, why didn't we get them? It's like, God, it's almost like they've got an exclusive interview.
Well, you're competing, aren't you?
You
really?
Are, yeah. You want
the best students to come to LJMU rather than going off to Chester or Salford or something like that.
So I get, oh God, we've missed. I get all like that. It's like if I've missed an interview. So you kind of get all a bit.
I suppose that drives you to get them next time or go one better. But I suppose
so. It prompts your ideas and it gets you, creative, and so you never lose that almost journalistic competitive edge. So, but I think there's more of a role in getting, as much as possible, and strides are being made, doing that Lord's trip, for example, that sort of thing. And I'm in touch with the Cricket Writers Society to help with, work experience and things like that. That's almost more of the challenge than actually doing a report about a game or anything like that. But and that's the way to keep in touch with the industry, which remains a big challenge. So as well as your teaching, you've got to make sure that Liverpool John Moores is out there, so that the best opportunities possible for the students.
Anything else?
Just think. I don't have a lot.
Do you want to plug your podcast while you're here?
Sorry?
Do you want to plug your podcast?
I would, actually, related to that. I will. That's a great idea. Yeah, I'm working on. I mean, I hopefully you guys agree. Hopefully, sports students will agree, journalism students, and the sports media will agree, because touching on the guys that I kind of worked alongside of my generation, and actually people who are a lot older than me that might have retired, or they just do the odd thing now and then. But in this digital age, there are some still amazing sports journalists out there who've done some amazing jobs. and then have some amazing stories to tell. So my idea, and I'm launching this podcast myself, is to get round these people, and and just basically tell their stories. I've spoken to a guy called John Keith, who is a legend in Merseyside football reporting, and I thought it'd be good to start it off here in Liverpool with a local character, if you like, and he is a great character. But he was a teenager who worked in Bootle. You know, he wrote off for jobs, got his big chance, and he was covering Liverpool as a 19-year-old out of school when Bill Shankly was the manager. And he built up this amazing relationship with Bill Shankly at times where it was very different for sports reporters. So I've done a great interview with him, you know, talking about amazing tales of Bill Shankly, Bob Paisley, Kenny Dalglish. Of course, there was Hillsborough and Heysel. So he's got some great anecdotes. And I think despite the very modern face of sports journalism now, there are still some great lessons to learn from the old school, if you like, who may not operate so much in this digital world, but given the way that they had to work, there's some great lessons in there for modern day sports journalists. So that's what I'd like to get over.
Is it out now?
Yeah, out in the next few days.
What's it called?
Well, that's the other thing, and I'm like, I need a catchy title. This is very much, and I need a catchy title. I might put it out there.
Put it on something on Twitter. You might be able to find.
Yeah.
Put like 3 suggestions.
Yeah.
And get people to vote for.
See, that's reaching out. Twitter is our friend in that way.
It's a great way.
Or have it, or just keep it maybe LMJU, and maybe get maybe one of you guys to come up with a good title. So.
I'll have a think.
Yeah, but it's about speaking to almost old school sports reporters who are still doing it. But I'll still talk about. I mean, another great person in broadcasting as well, someone like Gary Newbon. I don't know if you know that name, but when ITV did mainly the boxing, he was the ringside reporter. He'd get right in there, and he literally after blokes dead on his feet, he'd get in there and he'd ask these amazing questions, and he became a bit of this cult figure. But as well as being a boxing ringside reporter, he did a lot of football, but he was actually an executive of Central Television in Birmingham. So he was like a TV exec, quite high in the chain of TV broadcasting. Yeah. But he got in there as this ringside reporter, and he asked these amazing questions. But you don't see him now, but he has some amazing stories to tell. Colin Hart of The Sun, veteran boxing reporter, who would have covered the alley fights, the rumble in the jungle. What stories must he be able to tell?
Stupid amounts, probably.
Yeah. So these are the guys I want to get around, so that students can listen to it. And I think actually hopefully people who work in the sports media will give it a good listen as well.
Well, I think that's a wrap. Tim, thanks for coming on. It's been a real pleasure to have you on. I've really enjoyed listening to your stories.
No, I've really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Tim.
Yeah, and I've really enjoyed it. Prompted loads of good memories, but really good to do. And yeah, thanks for asking.
No worries. Make sure you stay up to date with all our social media channels at MerseySportLive, and of course our website, MerseySportLive.co.uk, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.